All right, welcome to Witchpolice Radio. I am, every single time I preface this by saying I'm on the internet, and like everyone knows I'm on the internet by now because everyone's on the internet. No one can see each other in person. But I feel like, I don't know, for the past 6 months, every show I've been saying, oh yeah, I'm on the internet doing a remote call. So yeah, I am doing that again. And the guest on this episode has not been on the show before. It's one of the cool things about doing these remotely is that, I'm finding I'm talking to people that maybe I wouldn't necessarily have had on the show before. In past years, I would have a lot of the same guests over and over and over again, just because it was easy. it was comfortable to go hang out with someone that I already knew and I'd already familiar with their music. But this year, or 2020, I guess, and now 2021, I find that I'm reaching out to more people who are new to me in terms of their music. So I'm happy to have you on the show, and I think that maybe the best way to start this off is if you want to first of all introduce yourself and then just give a bit of background about what you do musically.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on the show. Yeah, my name is Laura Lucas. I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm 23 as of yesterday. It was my birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And yeah, I grew up in Winnipeg. I kind of started releasing music pretty spontaneously. I've been writing for quite a while, but just put out my first single, I guess, over a year ago now.
Okay.
And I just put out a few singles throughout 2020 as well. So I'd say I guess my music is kind of folky vibe, maybe like alternative folk.
Okay.
I'm still kind of exploring kind of what I want my sound to be, but yeah, I'm currently working on an EP, so excited about that. And
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like that putting a genre on anything is hard, right? Now, even no matter what kind of music you play, everyone wants to kind of, whittle it down to this very specific thing. And especially when you've, been doing it for a reasonably short amount of time as well, right? It's hard to sort of figure out where you fit. But I mean, singer-songwriter seems to work. That evokes something, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So what was your sort of introduction to the local music scene? Because, a lot of the time I'm talking to people who are maybe not from here. They moved here at some point in their lives and they missed out on kind of being fully integrated into the music scene when they were younger. Are you one of those people who sort of came up watching local artists and getting inspiration from them?
Not really, no. I'd say I've just been kind of discovering more local artists like over the past year.
Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I almost kind of lived under a rock. Like I'm a really bad Winnipegger, which is embarrassing. But yeah, I spent all of 2019 living in Australia. And then
cool.
When I came back was kind of when I just started exploring more local music and getting more involved in like the music community, which has been really great. Just through like songwriting groups and like mentorship groups. And I'm currently being mentored by Alexa Dirks.
Cool. Okay. Yeah.
Begonia.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of getting more into that this year.
How was your what was it like for you kind of getting into the music scene at that point? Because, like I was saying too, there's a lot of people who have been involved in some way or another since they were like 14 or something, right? And I mean, for you to just kind of jump into this a couple of years ago, did you feel it was very welcoming? Like, did you find that the community was open to have someone new kind of presenting their ideas?
Yeah, I thought so for sure. I feel like I didn't really know anything about the industry when I first started. So it's definitely been like a learning process. And I think the past year I've just kind of been like a sponge, kind of learning all of this new stuff. And yeah, I found a lot of people have been really supportive, and just learning from other artists has been really great and a great resource. And yeah, I think the music community here is really strong, which is nice. I never really saw that before.
Yeah.
I've just been kind of finding that a bit more this year.
Had you always played music, like even before you started kind of pursuing this? Was that something that was always part of your life?
Like I've been writing since I was maybe like 12 or so for a pretty long time. And I always kind of played guitar a bit, like I would take lessons here and there. I'd say since I was young for sure.
Okay. So what kind of, I guess, inspired you to then sort of take the plunge and actually, pursue this and start taking it seriously?
I feel like there are kind of a lot of things. Like I think living in Australia was huge for me, for one thing. I lived in Melbourne for a year, and it was just such a great city for music. Like there's so much live music I was seeing. I was meeting different artists, and cool. I think also I met a lot of really great friends who were more supportive and encouraging. And I think kind of like just being more confident with myself and kind of feeling like I could put myself out there. I think also living abroad, there's this kind of like sort of anonymity thing too, where you're like no one really knows you, so you can kind of like, it's easier to try new things and just put yourself out there in that way. So I think that kind of contributed to it as well.
Right, you don't have the anxiety of having friends and family watching you from the very beginning, right?
Yeah, exactly. And growing up, I was a pretty like quiet person and still kind of am sometimes. So like it's hard to do things that people aren't expecting you to do, and like
Sure.
Yeah, just caring too much about what people think of you. So yeah, living abroad kind of helps with that.
Does that caring about what people think of you, when you came back here and started playing and, you know, having people that were close to you hearing your music, was that awkward? Like, were you worried, you know, or did that experience in Australia kind of help you sort of get past that?
It still is a bit awkward for me. Like I find I sometimes have to just like pretend like it's not out there. Like I don't like when people listen to it around me. Like it just, you know, but definitely getting over that more and more as I kind of get used to the fact that I do have music out there. So
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that just, I mean, is it because of the material is personal? Is that like, I guess, what is the anxiety, what causes the anxiety about that? Because I know a lot of people have that. And I mean, you know, I played in bands, and for sure, that's definitely part of it. But in listening to your stuff, it seems like your songs are very, I'm not sure what the best word is, very evocative. Like there's definitely emotion behind it that comes through in listening to the song. Is that kind of personal involvement with what you're writing? Is that maybe causing some of the concern about, oh crap, people are gonna, did you feel vulnerable? Maybe that's a better way to say it.
Yeah, I think vulnerability is a good word, for sure, because it's kind of like just like personal stories, and I'm not a super open book like in general, like with people that I don't really know, so it's definitely weird to like have my own kind of feelings out there like that. So yeah, definitely like vulnerability, I think.
Cool. Well, not cool. I mean, yeah, I guess it is cool, but yeah, you know what I mean. So you have a few singles out now, and what has the reception been to those? I mean, you know, it's one of the best things about living in the kind of era we're in right now is that you can record stuff and just put it out there and just sort of see what happens to it, right? I mean, it's not the same as it was even 15 years ago, where the people hearing your music, you'd kind of have an idea who they are at first, but now it's just sort of, once it's out there, it's floating around in the ether somewhere, and people are, you know, finding it however they find it, right? So have you had a good response so far?
Yeah, I thought it's been pretty good. I feel like I've connected with a lot of people through it, and you know, just getting messages from people who I don't know is always really cool. And one of my songs was placed on a Spotify playlist, which was kind of based in Australia, because I recorded the first few songs in Australia as well. So it was kind of cool. Like all my listeners were like Melbourne, Sydney, and like New Zealand and that kind of thing. So it was kind of interesting to see like most people who are listening weren't even like from here, people who know me. So that's kind of cool.
It's cool that even though you're not there anymore, you still have that kind of connection to that part of the world.
Yeah, for sure.
You said you're planning on releasing an EP soon. Is that stuff that you've been working on like since you were there, or is it all new kind of back in Canada material?
Yeah, all of the songs that I have so far were written in 2020. So yeah, after I came back.
Okay, cool. And so how is this, I ask everyone this, but we're in such a really bizarre time in the world right now. How has this pandemic affected you? Because, you know, again, you're fairly new in terms of, you know, being out there publicly. You're working on new songs. You have singles that are coming out, you know, during a pandemic year. What has that experience been like for you?
It's been kind of, I think, up and down, like in terms of like songwriting and creativity. Like I feel like there are times when I feel more inspired, and then times where I'm more just like, I'd rather like just read and kind of consume art rather than try to create it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I started working full time this year as well, so that's been kind of an adjustment.
Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, it hasn't been like too bad. Like I think I'm pretty lucky just with my situation and living at home, and you know, I don't really have too much to worry about, so it's good that way. But definitely.
Well, and you're also a solo artist too, right? So you don't have to necessarily worry about having 5 people to coordinate, you know, with quarantining and things like that, right? So
exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
With the stuff that you're working on, is it all just basically you, or are you working with other musicians and fleshing out the songs a bit more?
It's just been me so far. Yeah, just songwriting, and I've been working with Alexa through that mentorship program and kind of just workshopping the songs a bit, and yeah.
Sorry, my dog is knocking into things up in the background.
Oh,
Do you? I guess, like I said, one of the benefits, right? I mean, especially during the pandemic, is you don't have other people you need to coordinate with. Does that sort of, I guess, portability of what you can do? I mean, you could just take a guitar and just go somewhere and play. Does that appeal to you? The idea of that, of being able to just kind of pick up and without a ton of setup and organizing and planning and all that, you have the ability to just kind of go and go with it.
do you mean like recording?
Well, recording or playing show. I mean, I guess to sort of explain it better. I mean, I talked to a lot of people who have, they're in a group of 3 people or 8 people or whatever, and just even playing a show, even rehearsing is like a logistical nightmare, especially now. And I feel like solo artists kind of have the benefit of if you wanted to play a show in someone's backyard when the restrictions eased up a bit, you could probably just get up and go to the backyard and play the show, right? Without needing a ton of setup and everything. So do you like the idea that you can kind of be just on your own and just go and do whatever it is, whether it's a show or, even just recording something for the internet or whatever?
Yeah, I guess that does make it easier. I never
Well,
really
there's
thought
no drums
about it
to lug around, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, no, I didn't really think about it that way, but yeah, for sure it would be easier.
Cool. Okay. So I was looking at your website, and you describe yourself as a singer-songwriter / poet. So what I was wondering what that is. When you're writing lyrics or when you're writing words, I guess, is there a differentiation sort of in your mind of what something's going to be when it's a song versus a poem? Like, is there kind of a split between the two of them, or do they sort of bleed into each other?
I feel like they do kind of overlap. Like, I feel like a lot of the time I'm just kind of like, when I think of a word or a sentence or something, I'll just write it down and then leave it for later and then see kind of what it turns into. Like, okay. There have definitely been times when I've written something thinking it's going to be a poem, and then I kind of get stuck, and then I just kind of pick up my guitar and start like singing it, and it just turns into a song.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, they definitely do like kind of blend together sometimes. And sometimes I like turn poems into songs, or like the other way around. Like my song Moon Dream was a poem before it was a song. So
okay. I guess the reason I asked that, I mean, they're related, poetry and songwriting, but do you feel like is there a different goal of writing a poem versus a song when you're sort of putting that together? Is there a different, I don't know if it's a different audience maybe, or just sort of a different, I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like, there definitely is a different approach, like when I'm writing poetry versus a song, because like with a poem, all you have is the words. So like every word has to like do work. It has to be there for a reason, and it has to, be effective. Whereas with a song, like you can still have a good song with mediocre lyrics if it's catchy enough, and it can still be enjoyable. So yeah, it's definitely, there's different ways of going about it. And I think songwriting is almost easier just because like you kind of already have that structure in mind, and you're kind of just like putting the pieces together. Whereas with a poem, like I write free verse poetry, so I never like rhyme in my poems. So like, there's no like limitation where you need to like rhyme words, but at the same time, like it's almost like there's too much possibility sometimes, because you can write anything you want, so without having to fit it into that rhyming pattern or anything. So it's definitely, I think songwriting is probably easier for me, at least.
And do you bring any of that kind of free verse sort of patternless stuff into your songwriting as well, or do you try to stay more kind of structured when you're writing songs?
I usually have like a structure in mind when I'm writing, for sure, and I do usually like have a rhyming pattern as well.
Okay, is that hard to sort of well, what do you, I guess maybe a better question is, what did you do first? Like, were you writing poems and songs always at the same time, or was there one that kind of came first and then you had to sort of adapt to fit the other?
I've only been writing poetry for about like 3 or 4 years. So I think songwriting comes more naturally. Just I've been writing it a lot longer, and
Do you have a preference? Like, is there one that you are you happier when you've got a song finished versus a poem, or is it sort of equal?
I don't know. It's hard to say. It depends, I guess, how good the song or the poem is.
Right. Yeah.
But I'd say I'm leaning towards song, just because it's more like you're singing it, you're kind of like bringing it out with your voice and the music and everything. So
There's the performance aspect of it too, right? Versus just being on paper. Yeah.
Just
Have
reading,
you is the poetry side of what you do, is that something that you're pursuing as well in terms of, I don't know if you've published anything or anything like that. Is that sort of the goal with that as well?
Yeah, kind of. I've published maybe like a dozen
Okay.
poems so far, and yeah, I'm kind of working on a chapbook, which is like just like
Cool.
a small collection of poems, like 30 poems. But yeah, it's just kind of going with the flow. Don't have any like concrete goals, but
Yeah.
just kind of
Cool.
writing and see where it goes.
What is when are you hoping to have your EP done by?
Well, I don't know, because I'm hoping to go back to Australia to record it
Oh, cool.
with the
Okay.
same producer that I worked with before. So, I mean, obviously with COVID, don't know when that's going to be.
Yeah,
So
could be any time.
it
Could be
could,
weeks, could
yeah,
be months, could be years. Who
yeah,
knows? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. Like my goal is to record it before like the summer of 2021.
Yeah.
And then hopefully have it out later that year. But I don't know.
Yeah,
We'll see.
no one can predict that for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, not going to make any plans.
No. Do you want to, are you planning on doing a lot of shows? Once shows are available, like what's your sort of take on performing live? Have you done a lot of that in Winnipeg?
I haven't. No, that was kind of something that I wanted to do more in 2020, which was the worst year to have that goal. But that's one thing that I kind of want to just do a lot more of. I've just been doing a few like online open mics through Manitoba Music, and then
Cool.
I did my first live stream a few weeks ago, which was fun. So yeah, maybe I'll just do some more of that.
Until things make some kind of sense, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Do you think that you've found sort of or do you have an idea of where you think you fit in within the local music scene? Because it's so diverse and vast, and there's so many bands and little sub scenes and subgenres, and different venues attract different kind of artists and fans. Like, do you have an idea of where you fit in or where you want to fit in?
I don't know. I feel like I'm still kind of like exploring the local scene and seeing who's out there. Like there's so many people, I discover new people every day. I'm like, oh, I never heard of you. But I really love I guess some of my favorite local artists. I love Slow Leaves. They're really cool. I love Taylor Jansen as well. Of course, Begonia. And who else? I love Leonard Sumner. I saw him play earlier.
Yeah, that guy's awesome.
Yeah, he's really awesome. So I don't know. I don't really know where I see myself fitting, but those are the artists that I really like. So
right. No, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, I guess one of the good things too is that, I mean, because there's so much different stuff in the city too. Like I think there's a lot of opportunities for people who are like you, trying to figure out sort of where they fit in. Because, I mean, I hope anyway that people are still willing to take chances, on up and coming artists, because I know they used to, and I assume this is still the case now. It's been a while since I played in a band, but yeah. What is your sort of having lived in Australia? Did that give you any kind of different perspective on what, I guess, what Canadian music is? Because I feel like, when you're, especially in Winnipeg, it has its own whole sort of, sub galaxy of, of music. And there's certain sounds that are very, to me anyway, Winnipeg-ish, but Canadian music in general too. There's sort of something very regional about it, despite being such a big country. When you were over there, did it give you any perspective on kind of what the music here is compared to other places? Like just as a listener.
I think so. I don't really know how to explain how though, but I feel like I could hear a certain sort of sound in Australian music more so, like this kind of like coastal, like folky kind of vibe of a lot of the artists that I was listening to there. So that kind of differentiates it from Canadian music, but I don't know how to explain like how I see Canadian music as a whole.
Sure. Well, I mean, I guess even with just folk music, right? I mean, assuming we're going to call you folk music for convenience sake, is folk music over there different? Like, did you notice anything sort of in the way it's played or the way it's presented that struck you as being different from, what you would see here typically?
I don't know if it's super different, but just kind of like, kind of like coastal vibes. Like, I don't know, it just makes me think of like the ocean and kind of like road trips and that kind of thing. And there's like a huge busking culture as well in Australia. I spent a bit of time in this little surf town called Byron Bay, and they have like so many buskers who just walk up and down the street, and like every couple blocks like there's someone else playing music, and it's just really nice. And
that's cool.
yeah, there are so many great artists that came out of there, and folk artists, and yeah.
What outside of Winnipeg, outside of the artists like you mentioned a few that you really like right now, what kind of music did you grow up listening to? Like, what was your sort of background as far as what you were into when you first picked up a guitar or first started getting into music?
Well, I definitely grew up on like a lot of pop music, like Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Yeah, I loved Taylor Swift. I think she kind of taught me how to write songs, honestly. Like I remember like taking a Taylor Swift song and kind of almost studying it and like trying to recreate like the structure and the narrative, but with my own story and that kind of thing. And then like getting into high school, when I was kind of like exploring music for myself, I discovered Leonard Cohen, and he's one of my favorite artists for sure. Like him, I love Jim Croce.
Okay.
I love Lana Del Rey. She's inspires me a lot. Yeah, who else? I think those are kind of the main ones.
Sure. Well, like you just said about the Taylor Swift thing and kind of listening to that and finding ways to use those structures. Do you still hear stuff like that coming through? Maybe not necessarily from her, but from artists that you've listened to. Do you hear like, do you think the influences are obvious, to you when you have a finished song and you play it or listen back to it? Do you say, oh, that's Leonard Cohen, or that's, does that come through to you, or do you feel like you've managed to kind of morph it enough that it's more subtle?
Sometimes, yeah, like there's one song that'll be on my EP where I'm like, yeah, that's like a Leonard Cohen influence for sure. Like I stole his picking pattern, and like there are some references to his lyrics and everything. So that one's pretty obvious to me, at least. And then there's this other one that's makes me think of a Jack Bott song. I don't know. He's an Australian artist from Byron Bay, and I feel like that one just has a really similar vibe to his music, and I can see it kind of being produced that way. But other ones, like I think those are kind of the two, and then yeah, I think just those two. Okay.
Because I think obviously your influence is going to come through no matter what, right? In one way or another, even if you're listening to death metal and you're playing folk music, like something will slip in, right? So it's off. I'm often interested in asking artists how whether they hear it, because I think that like you might hear something, maybe that Leonard Cohen reference, you might pick up on it, but you might show it to 10 people and they might have no idea what you're talking. They might, even if they listen to Leonard Cohen, it might not come through to them, right? So it's always cool, because once this isn't really a question, but once you release the music out there, it's kind of not yours anymore, right? It's like it's up to the listeners get to interpret it sort of however they want to. So
exactly.
That wasn't a question. I don't know. But so what is kind of your, I know you mentioned like, if COVID was over, you want to go back to Australia and you want to record there. What is sort of your goal with this project, with being a singer-songwriter? Again, assuming there's no pandemic, assuming you have the ability to go record where you want to, how you want to, what are you hoping to accomplish? Are you cool with just, recording some stuff every once in a while, playing a few shows, or do you have bigger aspirations?
Well, if I'm dreaming big, I think it would be really cool to, make a living out of maybe not just songwriting, but like also poetry and like other forms of creative writing. It doesn't really seem feasible in the next little while, but a long-term goal maybe, or I think that would be nice.
Cool. It would be. Definitely. Yeah. And then like in terms of songwriting too, have you considered, taking on like songwriting as a job, like songwriting for other people as well, or are you more comfortable just using your songs for yourself? Because again, with the poetry background and obviously your songs are I think, like I said before, it's very evocative lyrics, and it definitely seems like the kind of thing that I don't know how it works these days, but you could potentially be like, hey, look, artist XYZ, I have songs. Perhaps you'd like to play them, right? So is that something you've considered at all, or are you just sticking with yourself for now?
I don't know. I kind of feel like initially I kind of thought no, just because like my songs are like personal and I like to like be really honest in my songwriting, and I feel like I don't want to like give that to someone else. But at the same time, I don't know, I'd like to explore it maybe a bit more. I think after actually Taylor Swift's couple of new albums where she's like kind of like making imaginary stories and storytelling, I think that's kind of cool, and I think that could be something that's fun to do. Like if it's not something that's like directly connected to me or it's not my story, I think that would be kind of cool to do, but I don't have any like plans to do that. But.
Well, just on kind of the same topic, how do you feel about cover songs? Like, do you feel, let's say you're covering something that does have seemingly anyway, like, as far as you can tell, a very personal connection to the writer. How do you feel about doing that? Do you feel like you can put your own spin on it, or does it feel like you're almost sort of, interfering with someone's private business? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I would like to do a cover song. I don't see it as like interfering really. I think it's kind of cool how different people can have their own interpretations of the same song, and sometimes even the cover is nicer than the original. And
sure, yeah.
So,
well, it can reveal more. You can kind of learn more about the song that you didn't necessarily hear the first time around, and in someone else's interpretation, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If people are hearing about you for the first time on this show, what's the best way for them to find out what you're up to? Obviously, shows, like live shows, are not happening for anyone right now, but if people want to hear your songs, or watch your live streams, things like that, what's the best option for them?
I'd say Instagram is the best. That's where I'm most active. So, and I have links to all my like Spotify, Apple Music, and some YouTube videos and stuff. So that would be the best spot.
Cool. And then you have a website as well. Like I noticed that when I was trying to listen to some of your stuff. Is that sort of a hub for all that information, or do you prefer just doing the social media thing?
That's kind of a work in progress. I don't know. I think you'll get more info from Instagram.
Cool. Yeah. And then once your EP is done, like, are you planning on releasing it physically, or are you just going to do the digital thing, like the streaming and all that?
I think it could be fun to do it physically as well. I've never done that before. So definitely something I've been thinking about. I'm open to that.
How do you listen to music? And the reason I ask this is because I'm always curious, because I'm a nerd who listens to like ridiculous amounts of tapes and records and CDs. And I realize that I'm a dinosaur, and this is like, this is not very common anymore. But I'm always curious because I'm talking to people on the show who are, like 18 or 70, like anywhere in between, right? So what's your sort of format, I guess, of choice? And what did you grow up on in terms of, whether it was CDs or MP3s or streaming or whatever?
I remember when I was really young, I had like a Walkman, but that was like elementary school. And then since then, just digitally, or I had like MP3s and iPods and stuff. Yeah. But just use Apple Music now, and that's about it.
And do you find that that's a good, I mean, like, are you able to support local artists that way? Like, are you able to find a lot of the local people you want to listen to on those platforms? Yeah,
I think so. Like, a lot of the times, like, you see a local artist and it'd be like fans also like, and then it's like a bunch of other local artists. So I've definitely found some good local artists that way, for sure.
That's cool. Yeah. And so if people want to hear you now, like, there's stuff on YouTube, and where else can they find it? Is it all on all the streaming services right now, or what's the best sort of way to actually hear you?
My songs are on all like major streaming platforms, like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, like Google Play.
Cool.
Yeah.
And how many do you have out right now? I know there's at least a couple singles, right?
I've got 4.
4, okay. So that's almost an EP right there.
Yeah, just put them all together.
Yeah, right on. Yeah. Cool. Okay,